Now, you probably wouldn't recognise him if he was sitting next to you on a bus or at a restaurant, but you'll know exactly who he is once he starts talking.
Who are you talking about, Ruben?
I am talking about Peter Psaltis, or Salty as he's known by most people, and he's the best commentator in Queensland, and he joins us on the line right now to tell us a little bit more about what he does for a living. Salty, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, guys, great to come on. Thanks for having us.
Now, when did you first discover and fall in love with rugby league?
Oh boy, rugby league was in our household for long before I was born. My dad played, not at a high level, but played the game. Well, I shouldn't say that because there was a lot of different competitions around back in the day, as they say. My uncle played for the East Tigers in the 70s, so the family was well and truly rugby league fans. And then I was a East Tigers fan as a youngster, and then the Broncos came in when I was a kid, and just really as the years went on and into my teens, etc., just became really. Fell in love with the game. I think it's a great. I suppose it can be a great leveler. It's a great contest. Just exciting as well. There's so much I love about rugby league. As the late great George Lovejoy once said, one of the greatest commentators of all, rugby league football, the greatest game of all, and I think we all agree with that.
We definitely do. So Ruben and I call ourselves couch pundits all the time, but what made you want to become a commentator?
You know what? The thrill of being a commentator, right, is something that's hard to describe. So I started out in radio as a teenager. I was a panel operator, and then became a sports reporter on 4BC, and never in my wildest dreams would I thought I'm going to be a rugby league commentator. I did practice a lot, but it was mainly just because I enjoyed doing it. And I actually, as a kid, guys, I thought, how can I get into a rugby league commentary box? I'm going to be a statistician. I mean, I was terrible at maths, but I could count to six, add up tackle counts and all that sort of stuff, and add up scores and etc. So I thought, that'd be one way to be able to get to a game, is be a statistician. But then started doing around the grounds for the continuous call team, and then 4BC got the rights to call rugby league games in the early part of the 2000s. So it was a sideline eye there, and then fast forward to it was about 2012 when the Queensland Cup, as it is generally known, but the now Host Plus Cup, it was the Intra Super Cup back then. They went from the ABC, where it had been for a million years, to Channel 9. So I put my hand up and started commentating on the sideline, and then a couple of years later was able to get up in the commentary box, and that's where it all began for Channel 9.
Sweet. So how long have you actually been commentating for now?
So if you include being on the sideline, it's about 23 years. For Channel 9 with the Intra Super Cup, so Host Plus Cup, that was from 2012 to now. But full-time as one of the callers with 9. And the original was say, Ray Warren. He was our number 1, Matt Thompson number 2, and I was doing a few Queensland games and then Saturday night games. It wasn't just in Queensland. It was Saturday night games, and then Rabs retired, and then it was Matt Thompson and myself leading the Channel 9 commentary team, and that's been for about 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, being a young aspiring commentator, who was your so-called person you looked up to? Was it Ray Warren?
Oh yeah, I mean the GOAT. It's a term that's thrown around a lot for different people, and sometimes it's done in jest. But he's the best rugby league commentator of all time, Rabs, and so generous with his time as well, too, guys. To give advice. Another one having a primarily a radio background was Ray Hadley. He's someone who I just used to love listening to as a kid. One of the best radio callers that we've ever seen. But one thing, and it's a piece of advice I give out a lot, is that, and I learnt it very early on from a couple of bosses that I had, and is that be inspired by as many people as you want, but then you've got to be yourself. Like if I started calling games and saying, "Oh, look at that crunching tackle," that's how he's just trying to be like Ray Hadley.
Yeah,
and you've got to be yourself. Or Ray Warren, I should say. You've got to be yourself. There's only ever going to be one Ray Warren, just like now on 9, there's only one Matt Thompson, one Peter Psaltis, one Brenton Speed, who calls some games for us as well. So, there's only one Ray Hadley. So I suppose that's the big thing.
Yeah. Now I know this is probably I know the answer to this question, but does it ever get old commentating NRL?
Oh no. You know why? Because when you turn up to a game and you walk through the doors in the commentary box, especially in a place like Suncorp Stadium, the best part is, guys, is that you just don't know what's going to happen. Like I've turned up to some games and you're half thinking, oh, geez, I don't know how we'll go with this game, but it's my job to try to, at the start of the game, sell the story to get... So the three of us are all rugby league fans, right? You're going to watch pretty much every game. But when you're broadcasting on Channel 9, you get some people, yes, you get some dyed-in-the-wool league fans watching, but you also get a lot of people who just want to be entertained.
Yeah.
And they're flicking around and they just want to... you got to keep them there. So if you're calling a game... I'll give you an example. One I called a few weeks ago was Dragons against the Melbourne Storm. Now, everyone then thought that's the Storm by how many?
Yeah.
And the Dragons led, I think it was 18-0 or 18-4 in that game. And it was really good. So you just don't know what to expect. And then you've got to, get up there for it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we've asked all the other athletes that have come on this show, do you have any game day rituals, like when you're going to go out and commentate? Like, say you're going to go to Suncorp and commentate a game. Is there anything that you do beforehand? Like warming your voice up or...
The warming of the voice up's important. I do my radio show beforehand. That actually helps. It doesn't help the people in the commentary box because I'm annoying the you-know-what out of them, but... because everyone else is getting ready. But then by the time, then I have about an hour break and then I'm ready to go. But everyone knows that when I'm sitting down in the commentary box, say for an 8 o'clock kickoff on a Friday night, right?
Yep.
So if I'm sitting down from about 20 to 8, 7:30, 20 to 8, they just leave me alone. No one, unless I get up and start talking or something like that. You just get left alone. And I know Matt's the same, Rabs is the same, because that's the time where you really want those numbers and names to soak in. And the funny thing is, the bigger the game, like a Broncos-Melbourne Storm game or a Penrith v Brisbane or whatever, they're the easy ones because you know the players. It's when, say, you might not have called a team for a few months and you go, oh wow, these are all different players. So the easier the game. The bigger the game, sometimes the easier it is to prepare for. But I like also going for a walk out onto the field, going and seeing different members of coaching staff. I've got to know quite a few of the players, so you just go and have a bit of a chat, get a bit of a, I suppose, feel for what's going on down in the rooms and etc. So yeah, I like doing that, and then getting ready to focus on the game.
Now, making your debut is like one of the massivest milestones you can make in any sport. Can you talk us through your very first NRL game that you called?
Yeah, I can. So I'll do Channel 9, guys, okay?
Yep.
So this is for 9 because radio was going back a long way. But Channel 9, okay. So it was the first NRL game I called on 9 was a game between the Titans and the Cowboys. And it was at Seabus Super Stadium on the Gold Coast in, I think it was 2018. 2018. Anyway, so I'm on the... I've just finished watching Liverpool win the Champions League.
Yep.
They won the Champions League final.
Yep.
And it was a Sunday morning. But here's the thing. I wasn't at home. I was in Rockhampton getting ready to call a Intra Super Cup game for Channel 9.
Oh.
And at about 7 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call saying, mate, you're up. This is from our then head of league, Simon Fordham, a senior executive at Wide World of Sports at 9 these days. And he said, I've got good news for you. He said, you're going to call your first NRL game this afternoon for us. And I said, that's great. I said, what's happened with Matt? He said, Matt's unwell. I said, that's bad luck. He said, yeah, but he said, you're up. And he said, so take your time. It's on the Gold Coast. No need to worry about flying. You're sweet. I said, mate, I'm in Rocky. And he said, what? So they found a flight in about 2.5 hours' time, got me out of Rocky, flew down. I got my notes from our great statistician, David Middleton, on the plane. So I'm learning the teams on the way down. Flew down, jumped in my car, which thankfully was at the airport, and drove down the C bus. Got there at about 2:30 for the 4 o'clock game, and away we went. It was a whirlwind day, but one that I'll never forget. Fortunately, it was a low-scoring game, but yeah, I'll never forget that. That's for sure. But yeah, so it was no preparation or anything like that. And then later that year, I got to do all the Saturday night games as well. When Nine get to Saturday night football for the last 5 rounds of the year.
So that's pretty much a similar story to a lot of people who do make their debut in the NRL. They're just doing their job on a Friday, and then they get the call from the coach, and they have to play on the Saturday, basically.
Yeah, absolutely, Ruben. You're right, mate. I'll tell you that there's some coaches back in the day when, you know how guys, you get the 22-man squad these days, and then trim down to 19 the 24 hours before kickoff, and then it's the 17-man squad an hour before kickoff. So not all that long ago, we never used to find out who was going to be in that final 17 until an hour before kickoff, and there could be 7 or 8 changes. And there used to be some coaches who would play that many mind games on their own team.
When you say some coaches, do you just mean Craig Bellamy and Wayne Bennett?
No, Brian Smith, actually. I wasn't going to mention who it was. But Brian Smith would he'd make 8 or 9 changes when you get that hour before kickoff. Basically, they used to see why teams are named on a Tuesday is because of the old Big League magazine. So we could go to print on a Wednesday and be available for you on a Thursday. So teams never meant much in there because coaches used to change it all the time. But some coaches, as I said, like Brian Smith, would tell players they're in and then they're out, and they wouldn't know until sometimes an hour before kickoff if they were going to play or not.
Yeah, wow. Okay. That's really interesting. Now, do you have any like funny or interesting interactions that you've had with rugby league players that you can remember?
That's a tough one off the top of the head.
Yes. Ones that you can actually repeat as well.
Yeah. There's a couple involving Cameron Munster that I'll leave alone.
Yep.
So I've become one of the great things, right, with what I get to do is you meet a lot of people, and fortunately, some of them become good mates. So I've become pretty close with guys like Jason Hetherington, former Bulldogs hooker, dad of Kobe Hetherington, and Alan Langer and Trevor Gilmister, and you have plenty of funny moments with guys like Elfie and Gilly. Like one night we all started wrestling, the three of us, and we all thought it was funny until my arms were so black and blue at the end of it, just and couldn't move. When I got home, my wife was mortified. She thought I'd gotten to her. Someone had tried to mug me, and I said, no, I just had a wrestle with Elfie and Gilly. Then I wasn't allowed in the house. But anyway, there's not many. What's one? I'll tell you one that happened in the commentary box, guys.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So when we were all growing up, and I know I've got a few more years on you guys, but who are these 3 iconic guys in the commentary box? It was Ray Warren, Peter Sterling, and Paul Vaughton.
Yep.
So Rabs, Fatty, and Sterlo. They're, and then Gus, of course, came in. You guys probably had a lot of Gus's. You were growing up as well.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it was Rabs, Fatty, and Sterlo for me. They were the three iconic ones. Friday night footy, Sunday afternoon footy. They're the three. So how do you think I felt when I got to call my first game, and it was my third ever game on 9? That I'm sitting in a commentary box, and to my left was Paul Vaughton, who was the funniest man alive, and Peter Sterling. And I said, this is pinch yourself type stuff.
That's what I was about to say. You just punch yourself just to make sure that you're actually still there.
Absolutely. And I'm still nervous, right? So and I still get nervous before a game, but I'm wanting to make this opportunity, this great opportunity that I have, work. Anyway, the boys were looking for food during half time, and there was no food around. And unbeknownst to me, that pies and sausage rolls arrived in the commentary box. Professional environment, isn't it? The commentary box. So the pies and sausage rolls arrived as players were getting kicking off for the second half. So they thought they were sweet because I'll set up the second half and keep talking. Well, you wouldn't believe it. It was a Titans v Dragons game, and the Dragons scored in like the 41st minute. First minute of the second half. I go, what about that try, Sterlo? And I look, and he had a full sausage roll in his mouth. And I turned, I said, Paul. And he had a pie in his mouth. And I go, and all I had to do was just start laughing. I was just laughing. And they're spitting out. There's pastry and meat flying everywhere. And we've all just lost it. Fatty's doubling over, just giggling because there was food going everywhere. Lucky we're not like the NFL in America where we have they have cameras in the commentary box.
Yeah.
That night would have gone viral. Absolutely, it was just. And I'm thinking I'm stuffed. I'm absolutely stuffed here because there goes my opportunity calling rugby league on 9. I've laughed my way through a try and missed the big moment, etc. The boss loved it. He said, "You guys." Not being able to talk because you're all laughing, he said, "No, sweet, that was all good." So survived that one.
Yeah. So on like a bit of a different end, what do you reckon is your best rugby league moment that you've actually witnessed as a commentator?
Good question. I think as far as moments go, I've been able to call some really good tries. I'll tell you one that only came through a few days ago was Suafalongo's try for the Melbourne Storm. And you see someone for the first time at that level, and when he made that break, found Ryan Pappenhausen back to Falongo, and he scored in the corner. That's a recent one. But then there's other ones, guys, that just they stand out. Do you guys remember Katoni Staggs scored a try against the Dragons a few years ago, and he just fended away from 2 defenders and just accelerated.
I think so. He was like on halfway or something.
60 metres. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, against the Dragons, and so there's that one. Then there was that game during COVID that I will never forget. It's my favourite game I've commentated on. The classic at Suncorp Stadium between the Roosters and the Melbourne Storm that went to extra time. There was they traded field goals before the end, or I think there was a field goal, a penalty goal, back to another field goal, or something like that. Went to extra time, and then Melbourne won it with a penalty in extra time. That game was an absolute ripper as well. There's been a few, but I think there are a couple that stand out. Oh, and one last season, Kurt Capel kicking a field goal against South.
Oh, I remember that.
At the end. Because they're unexpected.
Yeah.
It's the unexpected ones sometimes that provide you with the greatest moment. And also, too, I've got to say that while I wasn't lead commentator, when I got the opportunity to work on the sideline for the continuous call team doing State of Origin, that's a lot of fun, and I also got to play a role with the Queensland Rugby League and working with Mel Meninga during Queensland's great run, and they're memories that you'll never forget.
Salty, I think we could sit here and talk for about the next 4 hours, but unfortunately we can't do that. But thanks so much for your time today. We really appreciate you coming on the show.
No worries, guys. Keep up the great work. Great fan of the show. So well done.
Thanks, Salty.